Hi, it's Hazel. Welcome to my channel, Hazel and Aka Design. Thank you so much for joining me today. As you can see, I've pulled out a whole bunch of lace in sort of what I think is a pinky blushy color scheme. And I'll tell you in a moment why I am doing that. You know how sometimes when you watch a YouTube video, you feel compelled to, at the first possible moment, to try the project yourself. You just know it's going to be something that you love and you need to get on it and you need to do it now. As opposed to those others that, oh yeah, that would be great. Sometimes when I've got time, I'll do that. If I remember and if the planets align and if I've got my lucky green socks on. Anyway, one of those recent videos, excuse me, was one that I saw on the channel of the Junk Journal Studio, and it was Michelle. And it seems like such a self-evident idea, kind of, you kind of want to smack yourself in the forehead and think, well, why didn't I think of this? And that's basically to create a lace masterboard. Now, I don't think that Michelle was taking credit for the idea. She did link 2 other channels who had also done that prior to it. So I will link Michelle and the other 2 channels in my description box below, because I am almost willing to bet my last dollar that you, excuse me, will want to get on this idea very, very soon. I'll just push this stuff aside for a moment and show you the one that I created last night. So I did this, and it had a chance to dry overnight. Now, this is nothing special. I mean, clearly it's very special, but I mean, my base paper was nothing special. It was just copy weight paper. I don't even know, I guess you can't very well see, but it had a very neutral pattern on this side. I didn't really realize it. I thought it was white on the other side. And, oh, maybe you can see a bit of it here. So just very neutral sort of, I don't know. Anyway, whatever. You have to use the paper you have. Now, I should say that all these other women who've done this project used music paper. And, you know, that typically comes in pretty large sheets. And somebody doubled it up and somebody else put multiple sheets together to create a bigger thing. Now, I wanted to start small, something that's going to fit on this screen here, and just basically to try out the technique. I should also tell you that people used everything from, well, I guess this doesn't help you to show you this, Fabri-Tac, which has been decanted into this Sugar Bell bottle. Somebody else used gel medium, which makes a lot of sense, especially if you've got heavier lace. And the third person used tacky glue, and that's what I chose to use. I probably, excuse me, would have reached for the Fabri-Tac, but then as the lady pointed out, there could be a bit of shine evident, you know, through the gaps. So in essence, this is a great project to use up bits and pieces of lace. Now, until I added these top pieces that have a bit of color to them, I was basically just using white. You can see there's some eyelet there, and it was fairly flat, dare I say. I think that, I'm so sorry. I think that everyone, now I didn't do it yet because of course I've now moved my sewing machine and it's not handy. I think everybody ended up doing some stitching over that. Now, when I was trying to figure out what I should use for my base, I thought, well, I don't, you know, monkey see, monkey do, but I don't need to use music paper. I could use something else. And I thought because the bulk is being added through the lace, that it, you know, maybe starting out on a thinner piece of paper is better. So I'm doing a lot of talking here, I realize, but I'm just throwing all these things out, these observations and these tips, so that before you plunge in, you can think about what it is, you know, think the process through right to the end. Now, in each case, every person, I believe, ended up doing a blind cutting up of the MasterBoard. So because, I mean, I could do that too, I guess, because, and maybe I should. Now, the disadvantage to this, okay, let me back up. The idea here is that once this is complete, you treat it like every other MasterBoard you've ever made. And so, you know, that could be cutting it into tags or pockets or journaling cards, and then further embellishing it when you're ready to use it. So, so the reason I'm telling you that is because, you know, when you look at it, you may think, well, this is kind of blah, but then of course you have no idea of knowing which bits and pieces are going to end up on the particular shape that you cut. Now, because this is on such lightweight paper, and because I may be adding some stitching, ideally you would want your stitching to be sandwiched between the back side of this and whatever final backing you're using. And maybe in the you know, as your final step or nearing the final step, you would also want to sew around the perimeter of whatever it is that you've cut out. So until you cut it, you don't really know all of that. So I'm all that to say that I think, just for the heck of it, I should turn this over, cut it up, and you'll have a better idea of what this is all about, as will I, because this is the first one I've done. And yeah, maybe let's just do that. So I said this was an 8.5 by 11. I will probably, I don't really like winging things that terribly much. So I think what I'll do is draw some pencil lines and then cut. Now, one of the gals, I think, you tried to use a utility knife and ruler. That, you know, probably didn't work that well. Oops, I've got a collapse happening here. A rotary, excuse me, gotta reach. A rotary knife like this, rotary cutter like this, is also pretty good because it's intended to cut through fabric. Whoops. But I think the simplest thing, and the thing that everybody has, of course, are scissors. So, why don't we just randomly, I'm going to make marks at the 2-inch mark. Because I'm thinking that would be a nice belly band. I mean, it's too tall, but then whatever gets cut off would be, could be, you know, the start of a snippet or something like that. So that gives us roughly almost 9 inches. 8.5, so 4 1/4. Okay, let's do the next one at 5. And again, you decide if you choose to do this. This is your mission, should you choose to accept it. If you decide to do this, then by all means, you would do this in sizes that make sense for you. So I'm doing this at 4 1/4 by 5. Now you can see, hopefully you can see that in some places, little bits are sticking out. I kind of started doing that, and then, I mean, obviously it will be visible on one side of these things once they're cut out. Now maybe these should all be smaller. So this is now almost 4 inches tall. I've got 8 1/2 here. So if I did 3, 6, that would be, let's maybe do 2 3/4. 2 3/4 and 2 3/4 is 5 1/2, I think. Yeah. Okay, 2 3/4, 5 1/2. Oh, I also wanted to say that I am in the background still working on my tree journals. No, in case you're wondering, I've not found the tree canvas yet. And I'll just repeat how bloody annoyed that makes me. Okay, moment of truth. But I knew I wanted to do this, and I knew that I had to sort of keep the, you know, you got to keep a variety of content going. I was watching some videos when I got home yesterday, and of course my buddy Carrie from the Paper Monkey did another shout out for me, so I really appreciate that. So Carrie, right back at you. She had done a recent video on an oversized little golden book that she's doing, kind of an eclectic style. She'd also done like, it was a fairly short video, a kind of a flip through of a book that she had gotten from Amazon or eBay or someplace like that. So, yeah, it's worth checking out her content for sure. My buddy in Louisiana. Years ago, I had the opportunity. My husband was going to a conference, and I was, you know, one of the companions. And so we were staying in Baton Rouge. Oh my God, I love that city. Oh, let me not flip that before the drum roll. Okay, so this is what I got out of this first small MasterBoard. Oh, let me finish that other thought. Baton Rouge is a lovely, lovely city. And one of the companions, who happened to be a man, had a rental car, and he drove me and another wife wherever our little hearts desired. Like, that was more, you know, sometimes how you have to beg and plead a husband to do that for you. Well, here this man just did it. Anyway, warm feelings for him and for Baton Rouge. I would go back there again. Okay, let's see what we have here. And understand that, you know, I got however many pieces I got here, that this came off a relatively small piece of paper. Now, the other thing to consider, as I think that's really nice. Now, if this becomes a belly band, now, of course, it would probably need to be shortened, but I would sew around the perimeter just because of the, you know, the potential abuse. Lovely. Oh, I started to say that just like with any collage, we decide how we want to, you know, whether we're using straight edges and regular shapes or whether we like torn edges and irregular shapes and how big each piece is. Well, the same would be true here. Now, if you use very large pieces, chances are you'll end up with pretty well maybe only one type of lace on a particular thing, on a card or a tag or whatever it is. If you use smaller pieces, you're more likely to have more variety. Now, because I was using some of the lace that perhaps is not the greatest, well, no, let me change that. We all have lace that we know is more valuable, more precious, more rare than some others. Now, if you want a way to use up your scraps, then you'll use anything you come across in your bag or box or however you store it. Some of it, like, let me just show you this little drawer here. Some of it is kind of more special. And I didn't really use any of that because I thought this is more like a top layer, a finishing highlight, you know, where you'd cut one little doohickey off and get it, and it becomes kind of a focal point. And then there's other lace that is very, you know, we see, we've got miles of it and we use it all the time. Incidentally, I would typically take the time to remove this line and this little, I wonder what you call it. Anyway, that little piece of fabric there. But last night I was ready to go, ready to do it. So I was just cutting, you know, basically just cutting stuff like this off because I wanted the lace to be flat, not gathered in any way. So again, just another thing to bear in mind if and when, and I'm willing to bet it's going to be when, you do your own. Okay, so let's keep going here. Now, you'll end up with little things like this. Oh, I should say that as I was using the tacky glue, I should really clean this off a bit here. When I was using the tacky glue, all I did was I put the glue on the paper as opposed to on the lace. And I just kind of pounced it on like that. Again, knowing that if there are any parts that didn't properly adhere, that you'll have a chance to tack them down or stitch them down or whatever. Now, I didn't have any difficulty cutting through it with those scissors. Oh, and if I had, I also used the silicone thing. If I had some glue that needed spreading, or if I needed to sort of hold things down and didn't want to get my hands very, very gluey. So, you know, and if lace, like this particular piece, I cut it into 4 or 5 chunks, was all sort of creased and curled up and that. So, you know, you do have a little bit of work with some of it. Kind of nice when the finished edge extends beyond. That's a nice one. I mean, they're all nice. They have character. They have pizzazz. They have style. So I think that I'm pretty pleased with the way I did this, and that if I do now stitch around them, that can be hidden when I do a bit of backing. So I only ended up with 6 pieces, again, because the paper was small. But are they not a thing of beauty? So I wanted to actually do a bit of a demo. Now, you know that I don't edit, don't know how, don't want to know how. So it's kind of real time. And I have this I think this is intended as a cutting mat. Like it's in the kitchen part of the Dollarama. Oh, see, and then I looked through my scrapbook paper because I think at some point I'm going to be doing a blush slash pinkish project. So I picked out a couple pieces of paper that I thought would be perfect. Because a certain amount of your background does show through. So for those ladies that did the music paper, you know, you could see it through some of the pieces of lace. I don't know if I said it or not, but in some places there's overlap, and there may be, you know, 2 or 3 pieces layered. Like here, there's part of the eyelet, there's this, and then there's this top one. So, you know, I think you'll quickly get a feel for how thick or not you want yours to be. Oh, I have to tell you one other thing. It has nothing to do with anything other than cats meow. The other day we went to Wendy's, which is a restaurant, a chain of restaurants in Canada. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's in the States or not, but anyway, or elsewhere. Now the cutlery comes single use, 1 fork, 1 knife. And I'm thinking, first of all, I was eager to get to my Cobb salad, so I just ripped into it like there was no tomorrow. And this is what I ended up with. And then I thought, well, that's dumb. Why am I not trying to save this? Now, obviously, that's not even 2 inches. The knife is even narrower. So then I carefully ripped this top little part off and thought, would those not be cute, albeit skinny, little pockets? Or maybe this could be a belly band. Like, who knows? But anyway, if you have access to a Wendy's, keep your eye peeled for these and be careful how you open them. Okay, onward. So I have 2 color choices here that I think would be very, you know, are good choices. I'm going to choose to go with the darker one. So this morning I pulled out, as you saw in the opening shot, a bunch of things that I think could work. Now there's this that has this little teeny tiny little edge. And I think it's like any other collage. If you want your elements to repeat and look cohesive, then naturally I would cut this down. This is probably a little too funky, unless it was really small pieces. Just, you know, tucked in somewhere. This probably falls in the same category as being a bit much. But maybe at a bottom layer, I might just cut a chunk of that off. Again, and then would obviously cut it down further. So let's make some room here. This is a light pink. Let's see how big this is and how, you know, like anything else, you kind of want to, oh, maybe these, maybe I'll just go narrow. You probably can't see that, but I'm just cutting sort of jagged, like in between the motifs, so that if I wanted them as sort of semi-focal points. You know what? Let me take this out of there until we're ready to start gluing. That way you'll have a better idea of what I'm gathering up here. That is too brown. Now this, okay, this all came from the same tablecloth. And you can see that in the past, I've used this for paper dyeing with avocado and probably with coffee. So sometimes there is a very fine line between something that is beigey, blushy. So you know, my advice would be throw, you know, everything, including the kitchen sink, in and just see how it works out in the end. Okay, have I lost a piece already? Ay. Okay, here it is. So this, I'm going to just pick part of this to cut off and include, because it has kind of that color that I'm looking for. Here's another piece that is even, looks a little bit different. You know, that's more pink. Anyway, you guys, you're not blind. You can see that yourselves. Here's a piece of, you know, whatever. This eyelet is something that I avocado dyed. So I should definitely, is it the only one I have here? Let's cut a little hunk of this off. Now, of course, I'll need more pieces because it's a bigger piece of paper. This probably shouldn't be in this batch. Now, there's this lovely thing that I clearly took off something, but it's sort of this, you know, zigzaggy thing. So I'm going to cut it just along the stitching line here. Now this, you know, back in the day before things were color fast, and you were always warned about don't wash reds with your whites because the color will let. Well, this looks like something let onto it and made this a pale pink. So this is heavier and it's crochet. So I'm going to keep it nearby, but I'm not cutting into it right now. That's another piece of that. This is part of like an ecru sort of type doily, but I think I can probably use some of that. This is, oh, this is more of that. Is it the same? Whoops, not that. This. Same thing. So we'll see about using some of that perhaps. Again, this has a blushy color to it. That's a scrap. This is starting to cross the line into peach. It's one of those, you know, hem type laces. Here's more of an ecru. We'll see about that. This is a gathered one. No, I wish I would have. Sometimes when I'm watching Netflix or YouTube in the evening, I'm in bed, I'm surrounded by, you know, stuff like this, pair of scissors, and I'm just doing those menial, repetitive, no-brainer tasks like picking threads. Anyway. And of course, typically I would not throw away this either because there's a place for that in the world too. Oh, and there's this. Now this is really quite pinkish, but who knows? Maybe there's a need for a little triangular thing. We'll see. Anyway, this is an eyelet ribbon. You know, and again, how these colors show up is a function of what they're next to also. Let's begin with what we have here. So this is a 12 by 12 piece of paper. I will start with, oh, I said I was going to use some of this darkest stuff first. So it's fairly thin, so maybe I'll just cut it in half. I do have more of it. I'm sure I have more of it. Let's get at least another. Let's make sure we've got at least 3 pieces. Again, you know, it's sort of that whole odd number thing. That's not a hard and fast rule by any means, but so, okay, what I do, I'm trying to protect my mat just a wee bit by, let's plunk this baby down in the middle. I used some of this glue yesterday on one of my tree things. So to be honest, let's try to see if we can get the right side up, although sometimes you can't tell. So I don't know how much glue is actually left in that bottle. And it does take a bit for this to grab. You know, it's not as quick as art glitter glue or Fabri-Tac. Again, it's not the end of the world if you don't have every bit of it tacked down. Chances are another piece is going to you know, you're going to probably do some layering, so there might be another piece that will help hold it down. And, you know, the ultimate, of course, is touching it up or stitching. Now, maybe on this one, I'll be a little more deliberate about having lace extend a wee bit. Because on the outer pieces, you know, it will show. Put this one, and I hope that you can see most of what I'm doing here. But if not, I will move it around periodically so that you get a better look. And again, unless this is your very first MasterBoard video, then, you know, clearly you know what to do and how to do it. I just thought that this was the greatest thing since sliced bread, so that's why I wanted to get on it and do it. Maybe let's do another fairly big. You know, you can get away doing bigger things, especially at your bottom layer, because, again, it's going to be cut up, and those things are not going to all end up in the same piece. So now, to be honest, I was working on my own 3, 4, 5. I was working on my own project, you know, as we tend to do. We're listening more than watching YouTube, and we're doing our own thing. So, to be honest, I didn't notice, and certainly they didn't say. And maybe that's why I do as much how-to talking as I do, because, you know, if you're busy doing your own thing, you can hear without having to be glued to the screen. Anyway, what I'm trying to spit out here is that I don't think that I think some people might have gone, maybe start in one corner and work methodically around. That's not typically how I do this. Because I want kind of an even distribution of my colors. And again, I'm hoping that you can see this. I realize it's a busy paper, background paper, but the lace is also colored, so I'm hoping you can see enough to kind of figure out what I'm doing here. Maybe let's pull this a bit more, have a little bit more extending. Now, because this is a wet glue, and because the paper is thin, it does sort of get a little soft after a while. If you haven't glued every single piece down, then you have the option of tucking something underneath something else, under a previous piece, which may be a nice thing to do, especially if one piece is nicer than the other. And again, you can see I'm just basically I'm not being overly generous with the glue because I don't think there's any need for that, because of all the reasons I've already discussed. Need some muscle to get into this. So let's just say that I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are crafting your little hearts out. If you are like me, you are wondering where the heck did August go? You probably come to the grim realization that the year is more than half gone and wondering, how is this even possible? I don't know. You know, they say that time speeds up the older you get. You know, when you're a little kid, you can't wait till you're 6 and can start school or whatever. And you can't wait till you're 13 because then you're a teenager. And you can't wait for 18 because then you can drink and... I was going to say you can drink and drive. You can drive. You can drink, obviously not at the same time. You can vote, you know, those kinds of things. Okay, I think I've used up my 5 pieces of that. So maybe let's try some of this eyelet. I'm just going to cut this in half because clearly I have more of it. Again, the bigger the pieces, the faster this is going to go. So, yeah. And then when you get old or older, you think to yourself, holy cow, what am I living dog years? How come so much, how is this happening? I'm letting this go beyond the edge, so there's that little scallop that's going to show. The nice thing about using eyelet in this is that, you know, it's more, it's more opaque, less transparent. So yes, it'll disguise oh, I just stuck the heel of my hand into that glue. It will disguise, it will, you know, obscure whatever background paper you're using. Let's switch this around. I'll just sort of kind of show you what I've got so far in case you haven't been able to see every little dab of glue. What else might we try? This, you probably, or maybe you can see this pile here. It's getting pretty small pretty fast. Now this is that peachy. Maybe I'll leave that kind of more for a top layer. I'd say that's a top layer. Well, let's put some of this down but that's kind of nice for a top layer too. That looks a bit, maybe let's cut this one in thirds And again, thirds doesn't have to mean equidistant. And another thing that some of the other ladies said was that, you know, they're not worried about tiny gaps because chances are that will be caught and covered in future embellishing. So, and especially with pretty paper. Again, it's so hard to tell sometimes. Not that it matters in the scheme, in the big picture. Ugh. I will say that, maybe I'll do my little spiel now about subscribing, and liking and commenting. A friend, a YouTube friend, someone I've of course never met, said, oh, it's the hardest part is getting to 500 subscribers. And I suppose if I thought back to the beginning, but who wants to go there? Maybe the first 10 are the hardest, or the first 15, or the first whatever. Again, don't overthink this, even though you may see me doing that. You know, I think that, anyway, I'm choosing to believe that the first 500 subscribers are the hardest. And then after that, it's going to be a piece of cake. So, if that's all me muttering, leading up to the point that if you haven't already subscribed and you kind of like what you're seeing here, maybe I need some of this to lighten up. If you kind of are liking the content, my unique way of looking at things or communicating things, that you choose to subscribe. This will cover that corner that's missing there. And it's funny, now that I've laid down this darker lace, it doesn't seem that out of place here. So I'm not really worried about covering it up. Now, oh brother, this one is a tough one. Now that I wish I would have had the opportunity, but I just wanted to get on with this and do the video. You know, obviously we know how to embellish and decorate, but I think the possibilities are pretty well endless for you know, what you do with the final pieces. I think I'm doing, to be honest, I think I'm doing a little less overlapping, or at least so far, a little less overlapping than I did last night. Yesterday, my husband told me that he got a phone call from the construction foreman or whatever at the Hutterite colony. That's where we have ordered a custom garden shed. They would have liked to deliver it yesterday. Of course. Are the Anakas ready? No, they're not. So I hear the tractor out there, so hopefully he is busy prepping. And I said I was going to use this more or less as a... Anyway, keep going. Keep going, keep going. This is a triangle, which sort of doesn't help with my... I don't like that pointy corner there. I hear the tractor, so hopefully he's bringing some gravel, because the next step here is prepping a good solid level base for them. Oh, I got big gaps here. What am I, asleep at the wheel? I mean a nice solid stable gravel base. The building itself comes on skids, so apparently they have this really cat's meow type of machine that can position a building within an inch of its life. Do I want to use... Oh, but I have that there. Maybe I should use some of this that I pre-cut. Now that is cool. Again, I don't care for this little triangle here, which is goofy because I could cover it up with something. Anyway, I am really looking forward to having that building, because it'll be a good size. I think it's going to be, I think we ordered 12 by 16. So there will be room to finally bring everything all together that should be all together. You know, much like in the craft room. Store like with like, store all the hand tools, things that, you know, electrified things that you use outside. Because of our winters, I think we'll need to be, you know, bringing in solar lights and some of those. Oh yeah, did you see the video I did on sort of beaded dangles that I'm hanging from my trees? I think I promised a little tour. Is that too yellowy? But yet it matches that background color. I thought I promised a tour of the yard since we spent so much time landscaping. Now things are already starting that fall decline, you know, where leaves are yellowing and things are going to seed. So I don't mind overlapping a really skinny one, like, not skinny, not narrow, I mean fine, thin lace like this, because it's not going to substantially bulk anything up. Oh, I do have this little thing that I should use somewhere, knowing that it will be covered up with something else. Or not covered up, but the peculiar angles will be disguised. I can see this becoming so addictive. Let's add more of this. Oh, some masking tape bonus. Yeah, so addictive because there's no end to the sorts of substrates you could use. The colors, like I think sometimes people are a bit stymied by what to do with their colored lace. But I think this is a great way to use up. I need something. How did this corner go naked like that? Anyway, let me carry on with finish this chunk up. And then worry about that corner. I should check how long have we been at this. Oh goodness, is that? Sheesh, we're approaching an hour. So I think that I'd better start winding this down because, you know, those goodbyes can be so long. Anyway, I'm sure that by now you've gotten the idea and are probably chomping at the bit to get on and do your own. So I will stop here. I'll stop the video here. And we'll, once this is complete, take some, how's that? Take some photos and of before and after, like before I cut it up, and then after, and put them on my Instagram. Hopefully you are a follower there as well, and again have chosen to subscribe to the channel here. I love this so much. I can't tell you how grateful I am to Michelle and the other ladies who put the idea out there. Yeah, it is, like I said, it is addictive, man. So I can cut these out and use them kind of as a top to fill in some holes. Like I could even put that there. Why don't I just put that there? Find the right side if you can. So yes, on that note, I will say goodbye, and we will see you in the next one, guys. In the meantime, I hope that there are some lace master boards in your future. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Bye.